Have you ever been to the wildest party ever? Yeah, me neither. But I've heard about one that might have been the absolute best or worst time ever. It all depends on how you look at it. It was thrown by King Belshazzar of Babylon, who, according to the book of Daniel in the Bible, was so drunk at his own party that he was using sacred cups stolen from God's temple, and he and his guests were having the time of their lives. Suddenly, a ghostly hand appeared and wrote a message on the wall. Nobody could read it. The king turned pale, and they called for Daniel, the only person in the kingdom who could read ancient languages. He read the writing and said, "You have been weighed on the scales and found wanting." That very night, Belshazzar was killed. Do you think God sent this message just to him, or is this a message for us today? Let's take a closer look. Verse 19 says, Belshazzar prepared a great feast and drank a lot of wine, and gave orders to bring the gold and silver goblets that had been taken from the temple in Jerusalem, so that he and his friends could drink from them. So right away, we see some really bad decisions being made here. Drinking a lot of alcohol and stealing from God's temple. Not exactly the kind of things that lead to good decisions. But then it says that while Belshazzar was drinking from a goblet, a hand appeared and wrote on the plaster of the wall of the palace. No one could read the writing, which must have been terrifying. Can you imagine going to the craziest party ever and suddenly a ghost shows up and writes something on the wall? Even scarier, nobody can read what it says until a mysterious man steps forward and says, "I can read it." Then he says, "You have been weighed on the scales and found wanting." Whoa, that's not exactly a compliment. But what does it mean? To weigh something or someone means to carefully consider their qualities and worth. God is basically telling Belshazzar that he has been carefully considered and he doesn't measure up. He's found wanting. In other words, he's not good enough. Do you know why? Because he's rejected God and put his trust in himself instead. He thought he was too smart, too powerful, and too cool to worry about God. But God doesn't take kindly to being ignored, especially when sacred things are taken and misused. So what's the lesson here? Well, don't steal from God. And maybe don't get too drunk at your next party. But most importantly, no matter how smart or powerful or popular you are, you'll never be good enough if you don't put your trust in God. But if you do, you'll be more than good enough, because God will give you his power and his wisdom and his love. And then you can have the best party ever.